The most obvious way for Pixar to bring Bing Bong back from the memory dump where they last left him would be to connect him to another emotion that will be added to Pixar's sequel plotline. Interestingly enough, there's already one new emotion that sort of fits the bill. Some Pixar fans think that embarrassment might have a big connection to Bing Bong, and there are a handful of ways that it would even be possible. The most obvious way for this to come about, according to this theory, seems to be that embarrassment is a new, reincarnated, or possibly even evolved version of the lovable imaginary elephant cat. This theory is the very reason why some fans think that Pixar might be reviving a character like Bing Bong, a character who sacrificed so much just so that Riley could experience joy again. As I said before, there has been a lot of talk about Bing Bong since the poster for Inside Out 2 was released. In the poster, Pixar showed us the first official glimpse of what the four new emotions entering Riley's psyche will look like. Actually, it's more like the poster showed us what the center of their faces look like as the rest of their bodies are hidden underneath a platform that Riley's core emotions are standing on. In this poster, you can see that ennui, who is the emotion furthest to the right, is going to be a purplish gray color with a long pointed nose. You can see envy, who is off to the left and has stars in her eyes, and between them is anxiety, who fans met in the trailer, and embarrassment, who looks quite familiar. From what I can take away from the poster, embarrassment is going to be much larger than the other emotions, not to mention much more pink. The character will also have a massive nose that just at first glance may even resemble a trunk. You can probably see where this theory is going. While embarrassment doesn't seem to have exactly the same features as Bing Bong, the resemblance between the two from what we've seen is hard to ignore. Their differences mainly lie in the fact that embarrassment seems like it's going to have reddish pink hair, while Bing Bong didn't really have any hair on his head in the first movie. Not to mention that they're both slightly different shades of pink. While Bing Bong was more of a cotton candy pinkish purple color, embarrassment seems to be more of a hot pink or pinkish red color. Bing Bong also had deep green colored eyes, while the poster shows embarrassment having eyes that match the color of its fur. There are other minor differences that we know of so far between the two characters, but beyond these few small things, the pair do share a strong resemblance to each other. According to this theory, that's because embarrassment is going to be a new version of Bing Bong. Now, there are quite a few routes that this theory can go depending on your point of view, and it's important to note that none of them have been confirmed or can be confirmed until the movie's released. But if this theory is accurate, how would it even be possible for Bing Bong to be a part of or be connected to the new emotion, embarrassment? Well, one of the simplest answers happens to be the one that also makes the most sense, and it suggests that embarrassment is actually going to be the reincarnated version of Bing Bong. Not only would this explain why embarrassment seems to look a lot like Riley's old imaginary friend in the poster, but it also makes sense when you consider what the character represented for Riley in the first movie. Throughout his brief but impactful time in Inside Out, Bing Bong was used to represent Riley's childlike innocence, which makes sense when you think about the fact that he was created by her when she was just a toddler. Because of that, he was shown to be very kind, happy, and to a point naive. However, he had to make a huge sacrifice to make sure that joy and sadness made it back to Riley's command center, and thus his character became a part of Riley's past. Much like how children grow up and become more and more wise to the world and become less innocent, naive, and to a degree happy-go-lucky. Thus, in the movie, Bing Bong disappeared in Riley's memory dump and was seemingly erased forever. Interestingly enough, though, psychological studies will tell us that a lot of a person's embarrassment stems from a time in their past when they were more innocent or naive to the world. I mean, think about it. Anytime you've thought about something embarrassing that you did in your life, there's a good chance that if you could go back with that knowledge you have now, you wouldn't make the same mistake again. Embarrassment is an emotion born from innocence, and in the case of Riley from Inside Out, her embarrassment may have been born from Bing Bong, according to this theory at least. When Bing Bong stayed behind in the memory dump so that Joy could make it back to Riley, it doesn't seem likely that he was fully erased from Riley's memory. The two spent way too much time together for her to simply forget Bing Bong ever existed, or at least existed to her. This means that instead of disappearing, Bing Bong more likely became a repressed memory. A repressed memory is a heavily debated psychiatric phenomenon that involves the inability to recall certain memories based on a traumatic or stressful event. Well, Riley definitely went through a traumatic event in the first movie, though some fans might not see it that way. Riley was struggling with an internal battle over happiness for the first time in her very young life, and it all came about because she was in a position where she had to move away from her childhood home and best friends. It was a time in her life when Riley probably felt like she was losing everything, and then to make matters worse, she couldn't find a way to fit in with her new school or feel comfortable in her new home. This would have been a point in her life where her emotional state was very fragile and vulnerable, and because of the trauma that she was experiencing realizing with her life falling apart around her, her mind began repressing all of the good things that were becoming too sad. This is why all of the emotional worlds that could be seen from her command center slowly began to crumble, and while Bing Bong wasn't supposed to end up in the memory dump, he couldn't make it out. Thus, he became just another memory that Riley's own Psyche decided to lock away for her. Even though that seems sad, especially when you think about someone young like Riley needing to repress memories, it's actually a good thing for Bing Bong because it would explain how we as fans would be able to see him again in Pixar's Inside Out 2. You see, according to this theory, when Bing Bong disappeared, his emotional essence or spirit remained in Riley's psyche. As time moved on and Riley continued to grow, Bing Bong's essence slowly formed into another emotion, only this time instead of representing innocence, he might be the symbol of embarrassment. This could be because Riley thinks back on her old memories of playing with her imaginary friend and she feels embarrassed. Or maybe it could even come around because of it. That would likely lead Riley to feel embarrassed and could be what physically spawns the new emotion in Riley's command center, which is why, according to this theory, embarrassment is going to be some form of reincarnation of Bing Bong. Isn't reincarnation a bit of a strong word, though? That's a fair question, which is why the other route that this theory could go down suggests that Bing Bong didn't get reincarnated as embarrassment, but instead, he simply evolved into the new emotion. This theory is really similar to the reincarnation theory, with a lot of the reasoning being exactly the same. Innocence and naivete can certainly lead a person to feel embarrassed, only in this case, instead of Bing Bong disappearing and being reborn or recreated as something new, he just adapted. According to this version of the theory, after he disappeared in the memory dump, Bing Bong simply hid away in the back of Riley's subconscious, and with every embarrassing moment that she experienced, he changed a bit. His childlike innocence and sense of freedom started to fade away, and he slowly became very aware of how wonky or different he was. Over time, it would seem like Bing Bong slowly began transforming into embarrassment, and by the time Riley's puberty button chimed, the evolution was complete and the new emotion was ready to appear in Riley's command center. Now, it's safe to say that these theories are a bit of a stretch and are solely based on the way embarrassment looks on the poster, as well as the connection between childlike innocence and embarrassment. There is a chance that Pixar has no plan on rehashing or bringing back Bing Bong for any Inside Out sequel that they might do. Honestly, they might not want to belittle the absolutely massive sacrifice that Bing Bong made in the first movie by simply bringing him back, as nice as it would be. Think about it. Riley wouldn't have been able to continue to have a sense of joy in her life if it wasn't for the elephant cat. When Bing Bong let joy fly off in that rocket alone, it showed that he was content with what he had done with his imaginary life, and more importantly, that he would do anything for Riley. So it's definitely worth considering that he might be a character that never comes back. If he does, though, there's a good chance it will be in the form of a new emotion, also known as embarrassment. What do you think about these theories, though? Is there a chance that Bing Bong will return in Pixar's Inside Out 2? Be sure to let me know in the comments below.